Well, hello there.
Hello.
Happy Sunday. Friends, lovers, thank you for joining us. This is, no surprise, this is 5 Minutes with Robert Nasir, because it's Sunday night at 6 o'clock.
Woo!
Today is Sunday, January 17th, 2021, the 17th day of the year, and we, my co-host Amy Nasir and I, are glad you are here. 348 days remaining in the year, 342 days until Christmas, 287 days until Halloween, but 28 days until Valentine's. And if you are looking for those last-minute Valentine's ideas, whether things to buy, how to celebrate, what to do instead, we've got them. In fact, Amy will be making a special announcement, already mentioned on Facebook, about a group you should join. But on this date, January 17, 2021, producers Bob Rafelson and Bert Schneider got the green light from television network NBC to produce, I hope Mark and Echo are out there listening right now, The Monkees. That's right. The inspiration came from the Beatles, the financing came from Screen Gems, the music came from Don Kirshner, and the stars came from an exhaustive audition process that began with this ad in Daily Variety in September of 1965. The ad read, "Madness!" Exclamation point. Auditions for acting roles in new TV series, running parts for 4 insane boys, age 17 to 21. The ad drew more than 400 young men to the offices of Bob Rafelson and Bert Schneider, the young Hollywood producing team that would later make Easy Rider, but for now we're trying to milk the establishment rather than defy it. They spent the next 4 months shooting, cutting, market testing, recutting, and remarket testing a comedy pilot they hoped would land them a network television deal. Got the green light on this date, January 17th in 1966 with NBC, who ordered 32 episodes of The Monkees.
Hey, hey.
Hey, hey. It is. The Monkees, an important day in history. It's also National Hot Buttered Rum Day.
Ooh.
If you're looking for something interesting to concoct this evening, it's hot. It's buttered. It's hot buttered rum.
I do. Actually, I was recently looking that up, and we do have all the ingredients
We do have all the ingredients. Hot buttered rum is a mixed drink containing rum, butter, hot water, or cider, sweetener, and spices such as cinnamon, nutmeg, and cloves. Dates back to colonial America, even though it most likely originates in Europe. Most often enjoyed in the fall and winter. Well, we're broadcasting from Motown, so we got plenty of winter going on. Snowflakes were falling earlier today.
Yeah, nothing was sticking, though.
Well, it's already dark, which means I can't tell if it's still snowing or not, looking out the window of the broadcast booth. And last, but absolutely not least, in fact, arguably most, it is a happy birthday to Poor Richard. Yes, it's Benjamin Franklin's 315th birthday.
That's right. You know, I looked that up, and I actually calculated I was going to say 315th birthday.
Oh, well, there you go.
Because it's also Betty White's 99th birthday.
Oh, my gosh.
Isn't that amazing?
She's almost as old as Benjamin Franklin. Of course, we've celebrated Mr. Franklin's life and achievements before several times on the podcast.
Yes.
And we're not done yet.
Oh, Echo has just checked in.
Excellent. Hey, hey, it's the Monkees.
We were just talking about the Monkees for you, Echo.
That's right. This is the anniversary of the green light of that show.
Yep.
So much fun.
And we also have Holly. Hi, Holly. Hi, Jennifer. Hi, Linda. Linda Cordair of Cordair.com. Beautiful
Awesome.
art.
Wunderbar. Wunderbar. Besides listening to songs by the Monkees, what we're listening to this week. Well, what I'm listening to this week, or was partway through, and then I skipped over to the printed edition, was Leonard Peikoff's My 30 Years with Ayn Rand and Intellectual Memoir.
So good.
So good. I was listening to it, and then I realized, well, if I'm going to be launching this podcast based on something in that lecture, I better pick up my copy of Harry Binswanger's The Objectivist Forum. There it is, right there.
Ooh.
You can also find that lecture in Voice of Reason.
Very good.
Anthology. But, of course, nowadays you can find it on the internet. In fact, the link will be in the show notes within 10 minutes after the end of this show. The link in the show notes is to the Ford Hall Forum version. which is super inspiring and fun and interesting and gets you choked up in various parts.
Yes.
My 30 Years with Ayn Rand, an intellectual memoir, was delivered at Boston's Ford Hall Forum on April 26th, 1987. That would be right about the time I was reading The Fountainhead and saying, OMG. Published in the Objectivist Forum, June of 87, anthologized in The Voice of Reason in 89. I'm going to quote a part of it, because this will give us a launching point. Leonard said, "As to Ayn Rand's other values, I have hardly room here even to mention a sample. Some of them are obvious from her writings, such as America, skyscrapers, modern technology, man the hero, the great romantic artists of the 19th century, the silent German movies from her childhood that she always tried to find again. Agatha Christie, TV's Perry Mason, and there are many more. From her cats, to her lion pictures, to her Adrian clothes, to her vivid outsized jewelry, to her stamp collecting, to her favorite candy, which was Godiva chocolates, and even her favorite color, blue-green." Now here's the thing.
What is that thing?
Leonard goes on, "In every aspect of life," she once told me, "a man should have favorites. He should define what he likes most and why, and then proceed to get it." And she always did just that, from fleeing the Soviet dictatorship for America, to tripping her future husband on a movie set to get him to notice her, to ransacking ancient record shops to unearth some lost treasure, to decorating her apartment with an abundance of blue-green pillows, ashtrays, and even walls. Ayn Rand was a woman dominated by values that were consistent expressions of a single view of life, which is what you might expect of a great thinker who was at once a moralist and an artist.
Excellent. I love to imagine her ransacking an ancient record store, wearing the Viking hat.
Yes.
And pillaging. No kidding.
Well.
No, she did love her old, basically turn of the century records, turn of the 19th century.
Tiddlywink music.
Yeah. And tiddlywink music.
Tiddlywink music. Find a website out there. We'll have to add this to the show notes. Music with an Ayn Rand connection.
Yes.
And that's been up by a poster named Dismuke, Dismuke, for years.
Yes.
And if you want to know what Tiddlywink music was and why on earth was that Ayn Rand's favorite music, find that website, Music with an Ayn Rand Connection.
Very good stuff.
So I thought, well, who am I to disagree with either Ayn Rand or Leonard Peikoff?
Not that we follow either one blindly.
Well,
but it's lovely suggestions they're making there.
It's funny you mention that, because I did actually disagree with Leonard Peikoff about the 2020 presidential election. And that brings me to my topic for this week.
Oh, how does that follow?
Well, these are a few of my favorite things.
Excellent.
See, I'm looking to evade this month's news.
Yes. Let's all just put our blinders on, our rose-colored blinders and glasses. I like that idea.
Okay, no, not really. But I am looking to offset the emphasis. See, I do care about what's going on in Washington, D.C., and I am following the news.
Yes.
But here's the point. The reason I fight, and I do fight, the reason why I invest time and money, why I send letters, why I write posts, why I vote, and sometimes withhold my vote. What I fight for is liberty, freedom, individual rights, the right to follow my own thinking and my own values, and to act accordingly. And following the 97-3 rule.
Yes.
Once I've invested 3%, or for some of you out there, maybe 30% of my resources in the fight, well, then it's time to live my values. Especially my favorite values. See, as the philosopher Ferris Bueller observed, life moves pretty fast.
Oh, yeah.
If you don't stop and look around once in a while, you could miss it.
This is very close to Spinal Tap philosophy.
I'm always willing to take a philosophical point from Ferris Bueller. Or any of those great 80s movies. Were the 80s the best decade ever? Yes.
Yes.
Yes. So, I want to talk about a few of my favorites. And I want to hear about some of your favorites. And I especially want to hear about Amy's favorites.
Yes.
The first and foremost place to find out, well, what's Robert into? What are his favorites is look at the questionnaires I filled out online. Link in the show notes. At some point, somebody was passing around questionnaires the way you would pass around memes, and they still do.
Yeah.
And I couldn't resist answering them. And if I do say so myself, my answers are funny.
Very, very silly.
Very silly.
Highly high on the whimsical scale.
Irreverent, but also reverent, because some of these I took very seriously.
Yes.
So there's a link to my questionnaire answers, but I'm going to go through a few of my favorites. For example, my favorite meal. My favorite meal is breakfast.
Yes, it is.
The trouble is, folks who follow the show know I'm not eating breakfast anymore.
Oh.
Sad, sad stuff.
So
So we can
no
skip
pancakes.
that. No pancakes, no scrambled eggs, no omelets. I did have a tomato and cheese omelet the other day.
Oh.
Breaking my fast when I shouldn't have. That's one of my cheats, tomatoes and cheese.
Ah, yes.
But, yeah, no breakfast. My three values I've been sharing with everybody, my three goals for this year. The exercise and fitness goals are 100%. Everything's going swimmingly. The jacket is fitting better,
Yeah.
as you can all see, because I'm slouching, which is not good. But, of course, when the jacket was tight, I wasn't slouching because I could feel the jacket. Anyway, the other two goals, we'll talk about those later. So I'm going to skip right from favorite meal to favorite dessert. What would you guess is my favorite dessert?
Oh, gosh.
What's your favorite dessert?
Your favorite dessert is chocolate cake with vanilla ice cream.
Good. I didn't even think of the chocolate cake, but you are right.
Oh!
I was just thinking ice cream, but chocolate cake and ice cream is better.
Yes. Or nice warm brownie.
Incidentally,
with,
that
ice cream.
you've now found another area in which I do agree with Leonard Peikoff, so now I'm 2 for 3,
Okay.
which makes us best buds again.
Yes. You're tight like this.
Favorite dessert and favorite ice cream is Baskin-Robbins chocolate chip.
Yes.
You have a favorite ice cream?
Mint chocolate chip.
Oh, well, that's close.
And it has to have the green food coloring in it. Otherwise, it won't taste.
I've bought you mint
Tastes
chocolate
like it.
chip ice cream that didn't have food coloring, and it was white.
It
Looked
good.
kind of like chocolate chip ice cream. And it's just not the same, is it?
It is not the same.
It's like, if you could make a mint chocolate chip ice cream but color it orange, would it taste the same?
Never.
Never. So that matters.
Does.
Speaking of chocolate chip, what's your favorite chocolate?
We talked about this, and my answer to Robert was many things, many chocolates.
It's hard to pin it down to just one.
I mean, favorite childhood chocolate would have to be those funny ice cube things.
Ice cubes.
Those
melt
weird,
in your mouth.
Melt in your mouth.
Melt in your
things.
fingers.
Yes.
They melt in your hands and in your mouth. So one of my favorites on the sort of commercial side
Yes.
are these.
Toffee
Folks listening
Fay.
afterward, I am holding up a box, a 30-piece box of Toffee Fay. It's kind of funny because it's a holiday package. If you push it out, there's actually two 15-piece boxes. But wait, that's not all. I feel sorry for the podcast because you can't see this because it's like a magic trick. You know, the little box comes out of the big box. But the neat thing is, even before you bust it open, you can slide it out and see what's in there.
Oh,
Now,
it's sliding.
if you don't see how delicious this looks, these are the best. This is a caramel shell with a nougat filled in, but in the middle of the nougat is a hazelnut, but that's not all. On the top is a disc of dark chocolate. Now, if you're like me and you would get a box of chocolates, Godiva chocolates or Russell Stover, whatever, I tend to eat those in bits.
Yeah.
Like eat the outside and then a little of the inside and experience it. Toffee Fay, this candy I'm holding up is the perfect one for that. So that's my favorite sort of mass-produced chocolate. I've got this 30-piece package here that I haven't busted open, even though Amy gave it to me for Christmas. Why? Because I've still got to lose 30 pounds. So
Right. That came all the way from Germany, by the way. That's where it
yeah,
came
Toffee
from.
Fay comes from Germany. It is actually an
So good.
imported
Well,
item.
real quick, Emily says that her favorite dessert is cappuccino fudge blitz from Publix. Cappuccino fudge blitz.
Wow.
That sounds great.
Speaking of cappuccino, tonight's drink is espresso. in my favorite double-walled glass cup here. That will keep it warm longer than most cups.
Yeah, if anybody has a suggestion for dessert, please go ahead and post it on Facebook or YouTube.
Oh, and favorite beans to use for this are Dunkin' Donuts regular roast. Grind them fine, stick them in that espresso machine. They make a hell of a cup. But we were talking about chocolate and mass market chocolate. I love the Toffifee, and they are imported from Germany, and that makes them a little fancy. Mid-grade chocolates, I do love Godiva chocolates. I have that in common with Ayn Rand, so obviously I share her genius because we like the same chocolate. On the fancy end, and a link will be in the show notes if you haven't heard of these or haven't tried them, zChocolat.
Ooh, French chocolates.
French
everybody.
chocolates. It looks like it says zChocolat.
Les chocolats en français.
zChocolat, or Z. In any event, link is in the show notes. Really expensive. Absolutely worth it. In fact, one of my secrets, if you're on a diet, is buy the expensive version of all the things you shouldn't be eating, and you will eat less of them. I have to say, in the context of chocolate, since I mentioned this online recently, and I've kind of been craving white chocolate.
Oh, yes.
To which author and usually all-around nice person Lee Wardlaw said, white chocolate is for sissies.
Boy.
Now,
Did he say that in a schoolyard somewhere?
I can't believe that Lee would say it, but so I couldn't resist going out and buying a bar, and here it is on the camera, of Lindt Classic White. And I'm going to bust this open right now.
Ooh,
just to show her that, you know, balls to the wall, manly men like me also eat white chocolate. Look at that. This is cocoa butter heaven.
This is like real cocoa butter.
I think we're both eating it at the same time, which means you have to listen. One of us should have been talking while the other one was chewing, but no.
I was gonna say,
How can you wait? Look at this. That's a good chocolate bar.
So white chocolate, it's like solidified creamy milk. And it basically has different layers going on.
And it's made with the cocoa butter from the cacao bean.
It's really good.
Which some people think means it's not chocolate. If it's made from the same stuff, come on. And it's made from the fats, which you think all of our paleo friends would say, oh, more fat is good. But anyway.
So we have some comments here.
Yes.
So Emily recommends Cafe Pylon, which is a coffee, espresso coffee. P-I-L-O-N. Pilon? Pylon? I'm not sure.
Well, in the Romance languages, we would say pilon.
Pilon. And Linda says decadent drinking chocolate is high on her list. I totally agree.
Yes. I know one of your favorite hot cocos was Godiva's cocoa.
Yes, Godiva or Saunders, which is a Michigan brand.
Which has to be cooked up with milk on the stove.
Yes, you cook it with milk on the stove. Heat up that milk, put in that powder. It's so delicious.
Amy is a hot chocolate connoisseur. I am a hot chocolate heathen. I'm not even going to say what kind of hot chocolate I drink.
I just said it.
But it rhymes with myths this. That's all I'm going to say.
Holly says her favorites are the Guilean seashell chocolates. I'm not sure if I'm saying that right.
Guilean?
Guilean?
I don't know.
Guilean. I'm sure the Godiva kind are even more tasty, but I don't know. We should try that.
Everything I know about pronouncing words came from studying Spanish.
Linda posts a long thing about a long article about how white chocolate is not chocolate.
Unacceptable. Unacceptable, Mrs. Cordair.
Well, technically it is not. It is not from the cacao bean.
It is from the cacao bean, but it's made from the cocoa butter.
Oh, you're right.
Yes.
Oh, that's very true. Goodness gracious.
But I'll read the article just so that I can respond to it and say, wrong. Or maybe I'll be convinced. Who knows?
I don't know. Rob is saying that white chocolate must be racist. So I don't know. I don't know about that.
That's reverse racism, I think, on Rob's part there. Black chocolate matters. Brown chocolate matters. But it does. I wasn't saying anything against it. Incidentally, speaking of languages, Molly said in her list here that we'll get to, she said, what are your favorite languages? I don't really have any favorite languages other than I like English because I can speak it. And so, Ayn Rand once said that English has the most ways to express thoughts, and that's why it was her favorite. So I'm just going to piggyback on that and say, yeah, she was right.
Well, j'aime le français. Yes. That's all I'll just say.
Yeah.
I love the
Habla
French language,
español usted.
which I love to try to study in ways that are not very proficient.
Well, you know French much better than I know Spanish.
Emily says Moser Roth chocolates from Aldi are amazing, especially the sea salt one.
Our friend Alan has said that too.
And Rob thinks that grass-fed ribeyes are chocolate. Oh no, he says
better
they're
than
better than chocolate.
You know, it's that's a tough comparison to make.
Yeah, it is.
And it was on my list of favorite foods, which are maybe in order, maybe not. Number one was always French dip. Only if you can get them with onion rings. French dip and onion rings.
With the au jus.
Yeah, with a good
Again,
au
le
jus.
français.
Yeah, not a mix au jus, not Arby's. Although, yeah.
Yeah, it
But
has to be
a
good.
real French dip. But yeah, right with that, I put a good steak. Now, I can go with less manly steaks. I can enjoy a tenderloin, a prime rib.
Yeah,
But it is kind of hard to beat a good ribeye.
it is.
On the other hand, number third on my list of foods was pizza, which is kind of blasphemy. But I've said before, in 2020, 2021, you can get good deep dish pizza by
Yes.
telephone, by delivery. When I
By
was
text
young,
message.
deep dish pizza was driving to 6 Mile and Conant
Right.
in Detroit to
Yes.
the one place, Buddy's Pizza's original bar.
Yeah.
And nowadays, deep dish pizza is everywhere, and it makes life worth living. Definitely on my list of favorite foods.
You're making me hungry.
I know.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah,
Are
Buddy.
you good getting through your list first, and I'll go into mine?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay.
Or not. I just got a few to start us off
Yes,
here.
good.
Favorite movies versus favorite films.
Wait, films, movies, what?
Well, when we were doing the 10 films that had the most impact on your life,
Yes.
it got sidetracked into a discussion of films versus movies because I made that distinction.
Oh,
Movies to me are a little more disposable, whereas films are a little more art.
I
but
see.
But it's really an artificial distinction, and I can't say where to draw the line. But in any event, if I had to pick three, if I had to say top three films,
yeah.
Cyrano de Bergerac,
Uh-huh.
1950, Jose Ferrer.
Yeah.
Chocolat,
Yeah.
2000, with Juliette Binoche. And the cast in Chocolat is just ridiculous.
Oh, so good.
It's not just Juliette Binoche. It's Lena Olin. It's Judi Dench.
Oh, so good.
You know, Alfred Molina, and granted
Everything
Johnny
is
Depp's in there
perfect.
too, but that's fine. Just Chocolat is such a fantastic movie. The message of the film, we've talked about that before. For number three, I was kind of stuck, so I'm going to make it a toss-up between The Sting,
Uh-huh.
you know, Redford and Newman, Robert
Yeah.
Redford, Paul Newman, 1973, or Victor Victoria, Julie
Okay.
Andrews and Robert Preston, 1982.
Two movies that we need to watch because I don't think we've seen them in a long time.
Yeah, if you haven't seen any of those four films, I guarantee, I promise you, money back offer, Cyrano de Bergerac, 1950 with Jose Ferrer, Chocolat, The Sting, Victor Victoria.
Yes.
Absolute magnificent and fun. Oh my gosh, they're all four of them are fun movies on top of being inspiring and exciting and make you want to live a better life.
Yeah.
Music. Part of the impetus for this episode, and I wanted to talk about favorites, wasn't just to get away from politics for a bit, what with all the fun that's coming on Wednesday, but also because I had just posted a playlist. I had made a list way back in the old days when Facebook used to do notes
Yeah.
called Important Songs.
Yes.
And what I did is I took all the songs that get me, that fire me up, that make me excited, that when I'm out exercising push me twice as hard, or make me cry, the cathartic songs that bring it all out.
Yes.
All of the important songs in my life. And then they deprecated the notes feature. They said, oh, that's not important anymore, and made it go away. So a week or so ago, I posted it just as a post, so it would be easily available. And enough people chimed in and liked it that it was really gratifying. But it also made me think, well, it's kind of hard if I were to say, well, who are my favorite artists, my favorite music? So under classical, I'm not very sophisticated.
Yeah.
I've studied classical music, and I mean I've studied it in college for my liberal arts degree. I did get a liberal arts degree. I am actually a certified liberal artist. But my favorite classical artists are composers Rachmaninoff, Tchaikovsky, Beethoven.
Yes.
Pretty obvious. The older stuff is nice, but it's kind of nice. You know, Mozart
And Beethoven.
Bach is actually more compelling than Mozart. But I just don't get into the Baroque period. In rock and roll, I think everybody knows my favorite band is Yes.
Yes.
In a distant second, because nobody can touch Yes for joy and benevolence and excitement and happiness. Where's the happy music? But exciting, interesting, difficult happy music. I shouldn't say a distant second.
Yeah.
But if I had to pick top three, it would be Yes, Rush, probably Led Zeppelin. When Zeppelin was good, nobody could touch them.
Yeah.
So those would be my favorite artists. Are folks chiming in with their favorite
They
artists,
are.
or are we
Well,
still back on chocolate?
We're still talking about. Rob says they've announced they're remaking the movie Chocolat. It's going to be called Ribeye.
Oh no! Yeah,
He also does recommend two films: Lives of Others and Vitus.
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 Have to see it to find out how to pronounce it.
Right.
I have not
we
seen The
haven't
Lives
seen-
of Others yet, and it's
we
on my
haven't
list.
seen either of those, so that's really good. Thank you so much, Rob. And Narendra, hey Narendra, he says he liked your list of music.
Oh,
And
yes, he chimed in, actually. I have a couple notes here.
Emily says Joe Satriani is something she loves. Jennifer says Rush and Led Zeppelin.
Yes.
Yes.
Yep.
Excellent.
Yeah, Narendra actually shared a couple of his on the thread on Facebook. Find that there. He shared his favorite drink. I know my favorite drinks were coffee. There it is. But after that, everything, I don't know. Water. I did actually put up my recipe for water, if you haven't seen that on my Facebook wall. Somebody was posting a meme complaining that when you go to look for recipes... See, I'm going to explain how this came to be.
Yes.
When you go to look for recipes, you go to the recipe sites and they spend paragraph after paragraph and page after page telling you, oh yeah, my great-grandmother gave this recipe to my mother and this story about how back when we lived in blah, blah, blah. And then eventually a few pages down and 17 advertisements before you get to it is the actual list of ingredients and steps to follow. So with that in mind, I decided to post my version of that. I have a recipe for glass of water. Make sure you check that out.
Oh,
Some of you think you already know how to make glass of water,
right.
but check my recipe. You may find some tips that you didn't
Yeah, there
already
are
know.
some nuances to making glass of water.
There
that
really
you may
are.
Definitely want to. I mean, you can either just be regular, plain Jane kind of about it, or you can be sophisticated. You can be a sophisticate of making glass of water.
There are variations, yes, but I try to keep it simple. I kind of teased my recipe for chef's boiled water.
Yes, chef's boiled water.
But that's behind a paywall. That's for Patreon supporters only.
We do have some more recommendations. I think I missed Emily's Pan's Labyrinth by Guillermo del Toro. Toro.
He's amazing.
I can do French, not Spanish. I
can do Spanish, not French.
Hi, Andrea. She's popping in. And let's see, what else do we have here? I know Rob does say that it's pronounced Vitus.
Yeah, and another recommendation for Joe Satriani, which I need to listen to more Joe Satriani. There are certain electric guitarists who are so fast that all I can hear are a lot of notes, but I can't quite tell what they're saying with the music.
Right.
I can't quite tell.
You can't quite.
It doesn't
translate
congeal
emotionally?
into. Yeah, it doesn't really say
Right.
anything to me.
Right.
People have said, "Oh, you got to listen to Alan Holdsworth." I've listened to Alan Holdsworth, the late Alan Holdsworth. Nobody was faster than Alan Holdsworth, but I could never quite tell what he was saying. There was never a feel that came out of it. So I always admired his work. He actually played on the first couple of Bill Bruford solo albums.
Oh, nice.
And extraordinary, outrageously fast, and could never quite tell where he was going. But I have that problem with jazz music, too. And it's not a problem with jazz music. I'm just not that sophisticated. So I probably need to give it another shot.
Holly says that her favorite band is Rasputina. I think I'm saying that right. Beautiful cello music, she says. That's excellent. I'll look that up. Emily mentions Polyphia. I believe that's maybe a band or a movie. Can look it up.
Yes, and Jennifer asked, do you like Aerosmith? I love Aerosmith when they're good.
When they're not good.
Well,
yeah,
if you know Aerosmith, right. You know that they are usually good.
Usually good.
Usually.
Okay. Gotcha. Oh, Emily said that Polyphia is a band. Yeah. Thank you. Oh, goodness. Jennifer says Slash was good. I think he was underrated. I'm not
Slash is one of those musicians who, because I don't get Guns N' Roses, to me it sounds like it's just not my thing. So when I would see Slash, like video clips you can find online of him playing with other musicians or playing solo or just jamming, he's so soulful, he's so funky, he's so good.
Yeah.
And you're like, why didn't you do that kind of thing with Guns N' Roses instead of, just the kind of shrieking, welcome to the jungle? I shouldn't do that because objectively, if you listen to Rush or Yes, and you would say, oh, they sound like fairies. So I get that. I'm sorry. I don't mean to be rude to pick on Guns N' Roses. They're not the worst band in the world. They're one or two notches above that. So no
You're
criticism
so
there.
generous.
I am so generous. I really am. In the Facebook thread, people offered a few of their categories of categories. I couldn't resist posting favorite categories of favorite categories.
Yes.
And categories of favorites. Mm-hmm. So, for example, folks said, well, favorite places.
Yeah.
Favorite places to be or favorite places we visited. My favorite place to visit was Paris.
Yes.
Paris was amazing.
It's so beautiful.
Paris was a place you could hide away if you felt you didn't fit in. Oh, wait, those are song lyrics. Rod Stewart, Rod the Bod.
Oh, golly.
No, Paris was amazing. Would love to go back whenever that becomes possible again. Honeymoon in Jamaica.
Honeymoon in Jamaica.
Magical. Jamaica was wonderful.
Beautiful.
So, my third favorite, and maybe my most favorite, would be anywhere my people are.
Yes.
Because who are my favorite people?
Mm-hmm.
My mother, my wife, my daughter.
Yes.
My favorite people are the women in my life. It's funny that, and this came up recently in James Valiant's discussion about Ayn Rand on a woman president and masculinity and femininity, and he pointed out in Ayn Rand's early story, previously unpublished, called Good Copy, the character Jinx, the female protagonist, and like all Ayn Rand stories, everybody's a protagonist. The antagonists, the bad guys, aren't important to the story. Mm-hmm. But the female protagonist says to the male protagonist, women are the bunk. Which he connected to Ayn Rand's feeling that femininity, the essence of femininity, was hero worship and the primacy of the masculine. And I'm exactly the opposite, but maybe that's because
I wouldn't read too much into that.
I love women. And the most important people in my life are the most important women in my life. My mother, my wife, my daughter.
Yes. Yes. Rob mentions the new show Lupin, which is set in Paris, I believe, or made in Paris.
Okay.
And so I'm looking forward to seeing that for sure. Yep. I'd like to go into some of my own favorite things.
Yes, I could go on, but
yeah, you can.
I want to read more of these comments from folks online. So while I do that,
yes,
Amy,
yes, Robert,
what are some of your favorites?
One of my favorite things recently is, so Robert and I, we've been together for 27 years now. And,
really?
Yes. So,
geez, isn't that long enough?
So we have a certain kind of mind meld. So a certain kind of expectation of mind reading going on, which sometimes can get us into hot water.
I figured you'd say that.
Yes, you did. We finish our, each other's sentences and everything like that. It can be a little bit, too comfortable. So what I've been doing is I've been saying Robert.
Yes, Amy.
So we've been saying each other's names. Not pet names or anything like that, but we call each other our names now, which I love. So I love to hear my own name from Robert, and I think Robert likes to hear his name from me. So it's
not so much.
Not so much. Oh, I love it.
but it is a great technique, a great relationship invigorator.
Yeah, it is.
Invigorator. Is invigorator a word?
Yeah, it basically shakes
Nothing
you.
better than Invigorator is coming to mind.
It shakes you out of the norm.
It shakes you. It does.
Yeah, it does. And it's so good.
It reminds you that your partner is this person.
Yes.
And,
you are individuated from me.
Yes, Amy.
Yes, Robert.
And it's funny because it also reminds me of it reminds me of an effective television script.
Uh-huh.
Because when you are watching a television show, and you'll see this in films as well, but especially on TV shows, at the first scene where a new character is introduced, they have the characters just call each other by name, even if they already know each other.
Right.
And the reason they do that, Amy, is so that when you're watching the show, her name is Amy.
Yes. And you can keep track.
And
I understand
since Amy's
this.
been doing this all week, I keep feeling like maybe I'm on some strange television show. And Amy, it seems like you're trying to establish my name to the audience.
Robert, be concerned if you hear a laugh track. That's all I'm going to say. So, my favorite categories are unforgettable moments, things I cannot live without, intense and meaningful emotional reactions from movies, and the same from books, and favorites I must discover or rediscover. Those are my categories. So
you've got to give us a few in each of those. All right.
So unforgettable moments.
Unforgettable moments.
Swimming in cold lake or ocean water. Cold water.
Like Lake Superior?
Like Lake Superior.
Or like Lake Michigan was this fall.
When we went down to Florida in January and everybody was so aghast. I can't believe you're swimming in water right now. It's January in Florida.
It's 68 degrees out and the water's only 62 and we're like, we're from Michigan. That's cold?
That's not cold. So that was just lovely.
When the water's within 10 degrees of freezing, then it's cold.
Unforgettable moment number 2, heightened awareness during my birthdays. I don't know if anybody else has experienced this, but every time it's my birthday for that 24-hour period, my awareness, my senses, my brain is just on high alert for joy.
It's like the spotlight
happiness.
Is on you.
It is just like that. It's wonderful. The feeling of achievement after performing a dance or music. Mm-hmm. That's nothing like anything else in the world. So that's totally unforgettable. Things I can't live without. The sweet, sweet feeling of just going to sleep. I love it. I love sleeping. As a matter of fact, I love musical harmonies that give me chills. And that's there's John and Vangelis, Tchaikovsky and Rachmaninoff, Ella Fitzgerald, just to name a few. Some of those songs, boy, it really, really just gives me a physiological reaction that I love. Walking in the footsteps of giants, going to some historical place and saying to yourself, Ben Franklin walked here, he worked here, he was here, he lived here. It's so amazing. I had that feeling when I went to Monticello.
Yes, several times.
So, oh my goodness. Obviously celebrating and being creative during Halloween and Christmas. Dancing, the smell of the earth in the springtime, especially after it rains. So good. Cannot live without that. Intense and meaningful emotional reactions in movies. These are not my favorite movies. Not necessarily. Some of them are.
Now, this is an interesting category. Intense and meaningful emotional reactions in movies.
Yes.
So it's not about your favorite movies.
Right.
Not necessarily.
It's a movie that makes you jump out of your seat and shout for joy and jump off of the couch and just searching for Sugar Man.
Searching for Sugar Man.
That's all I'm going to say.
That's one of those films you've got to see without knowing anything about it.
Yes. Whiplash,
yes.
Okay. Double Indemnity.
Double Indemnity.
That
classic.
That just puts me on a roller coaster.
Double Indemnity
every time
is one of those films where you can know what's going to happen, and it will still get you.
Yeah. Oh, it's so good.
We talked about that. That was the strange thing about Die Hard is that no matter how many times you've seen it, it's still thrilling.
Yeah, it is.
And Double Indemnity is that.
Oh, it's so good. Chocolat, as we talked about, and Amelie. Amelie, Amelie, Amelie. Love it.
We have talked about Amelie.
Yeah. And then other things like in books, intense emotional reactions. Of course, you've got The Fountainhead and Atlas Shrugged. And I'm going to put in The Secret Garden.
Secret Garden.
And I know that there's more books out there. Color combinations.
Color combinations.
Yeah, intense.
Color combinations that gave you intense or meaningful emotional reactions.
Yes. There's two combinations. There's deep translucent turquoise and red, like a deep red and a deep translucent turquoise. Not teal, not that dark. But it needs to be like light is emanating from it.
Is there something you associate with that, or just the colors do it for you?
It's physiologically how this happens. Then
that's category I'm going to have to think about.
Yeah, antique gold and mossy green. So, yeah, mossy, dark green, maybe with some different shades of green in it, but it needs to be very mossy, and antique gold right next to it. So good. Yeah, so there's some ideas. So it doesn't have just to be like, oh, what's your favorite color? It could be your color combination. What's your favorite? What are the things that you can't live without? And honestly, I kept thinking to myself, I'm looking at my list and I think if a Dementor comes around, all I need to do is think about these things and then he'll go away. Because these are my happy thoughts.
Happy thoughts.
Yeah. So there you are.
Ironically, Emily posted, most of my favorite films are super sad at the end.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get that. Although, if that happens, they're probably not my favorite films. I'm pretty Pollyanna in that way. I do tend to like, music in major keys and films with happy endings, and so superficial.
I have to say, one thing that ended up on my list was the death of loved ones. Okay, this is getting really, really, really like, whoa, whoa, whoa.
Is that a category, or is that something in one of your categories?
That's in the category of unforgettable moments.
Unforgettable moments. Well, that stands to reason.
Totally unforgettable moments. So I've had the privilege and honor of being there when people have died, and I wouldn't necessarily recommend it, but there is a certain deep meaning, like deep life-affirming meaning you get from it, that you are honored, that you know that your loved one is there, or that you know that your loved one knows that you are there. That's what I mean. And it's so it's just, I guess it's something maybe people have experienced when at a birth of a baby. The same kind of feeling. But it is very, very existential, very extremely deep and meaningful, something I won't ever, ever forget. Yes.
Yes.
So there you go. Hopefully I didn't depress anybody.
No, that would require some additional discussion, because
yes, it would.
Because that's a little bit of a category buster.
It is.
Yes.
Yes.
So toward the end of my list, I had favorite musical instrument. What would you guess would be my favorite musical instrument?
The bass.
The bass. Bass guitar. It's interesting. My favorite musical instrument is the piano.
Oh, okay. That makes sense.
But in sort of a disconnected way, because I'm not a good piano player. So sort of for playing, my favorite musical instrument is the guitar. And my favorite guitars, the first one that came to mind is the Variax, the Line 6 Variax, a guitar that can sound like lots of other guitars. And then I thought, well, but usually I will have that in Les Paul mode, and then I just reach for the Les Paul, the Gibson Les Paul Studio. But then I realized, actually, my favorite guitar is this one here. This is a Hohner student guitar. It's a 3/4 size Spanish, and if you look, you can see the nut is all ground down. The headstock has been cracked and then taped back on with black electrical tape, and then the black electrical tape was removed and it was Elmer's glued together. And the bridge
Trusty
on it,
Elmer's.
the saddle is actually a popsicle stick. This guitar has been modified and been through hell. This guitar went with me to Oakland Community College. It went with me everywhere. It's just a cheap guitar, first acoustic guitar I ever bought. And I love it. I just love this thing. And all the tweaks and grinding down and stuff is just me modifying it to make this thing playable. And people have said, you should play some guitar during your podcast. And if I was going to do that, this would be the guitar. Except for I need to practice. The bit of Vivaldi there is something I used to play on this guitar to put my daughter to sleep at night.
Yeah.
Favorite guitar, bought in a music store for, I don't know, some cheap amount of money back when I was 16 years old, and it's still with me. So a lot of our favorites are personal, contextual,
Highly
and on
contextual.
other values.
But it's so fun explaining them.
Yes,
I just
I
is
just love
great.
that guitar, and it's been better to me than I've been to it,
it does love you for sure.
as so many
Keeping it
of our
together.
values are.
Yes.
So as we're running a little bit long, my takeaway for the episode. My takeaway is that your values matter. But in
Yes.
particular, and this goes back to Andrew Bernstein's How to Be an Impassioned Valuer, your hierarchy of values matters.
Yes, it does.
Things that are most important to you, you need to have the most dedication and respect for. Because they aren't just things out there, they are things in here, things in yourself, things in your mind, things in your psychology, we can say things in your soul. And so I could not resist revisiting a lot of these. There's even more that I didn't discuss today. And that's why my post-it note for the week says, be loyal to your own best self. This has been a reminder that I've had to give myself recently as I'm working on my New Year's resolutions, my big 3 accomplishments for 2021. There's a lot of distractions, a lot of lesser values, a lot of things that are important but not that important. And I'm having to remind myself to be loyal to my own best self. And that's what I want for everybody out there this week. Be loyal to your own best self. We're going to talk about loyalty. I said that's one of those difficult concepts we're going to discuss. Loyalty and tradition and honor. And but just to get us started, be loyal to your own best self. That's what I'm going to be doing this week. And I hope that you will join me. I know that you will join me in that. Please feel free to continue sharing your favorites. We're going to be talking about this online. I'm sure we'll be talking about values more this year, as we did last year in our values episodes and a few of the other related episodes.
You guys have all been so great
comments are amazing.
tonight. Thank you for being
If you want to
so
find
good.
a few in there, I'm just going to go through real quick, recap here. Show notes for this episode will be online within 10 minutes. Some of the links are absolutely irresistible. There are things I didn't even get to, like my favorite face masks. Yeah, you laugh. But actually, I do have favorite face masks.
Yes.
They're being sold on Etsy by my darling sister, who lives down in Florida. There's a link in the show notes. Take a look at them. They're actually super cool. Very cute.
They are soft.
She sent me a rock and roll face mask, which unfortunately is in the laundry right now. I should have had it up here for the episode. Click that Etsy link and look at those face masks. So cool. You can find favorites in just about everything.
Yes.
And as Ayn Rand said, you should have favorites in every significant area of your life. And I think even in the insignificant areas of your life. So within 10 minutes after the show, those show notes will be posted online with links to everything we've talked about, including that. If you have questions or comments, you can post them on this video or in the 5 Minutes with Robert Nasir Facebook group. Let us know what you think of the show. Let us know what you would like to see more of. You could even let us know what you'd like to see less of if something doesn't fit into your particular hierarchy of values. And last but certainly not least, at least not least to my accountant, which is Amy, if you want to support the show financially, if you'd like to throw a few coins our way,
Yes.
Patreon.com/Robert Nasir. Thank you so much to everybody who's already contributing to the show. We genuinely appreciate that. If you care to use a different platform, feel free to message Amy or I for a PayPal address instead. Or drive to our house and throw money on our porch.
Yes, although Narendra is saying that the sun is already rising in India. So
Sun is already rising.
Yes.
The sun also rises.
yes, but I think you're going to have to rent a boat as well, Narendra, if you want to come by.
In the southern hemisphere, of course, it would still be light outside, even right now
Yeah,
at 7 o'clock at night.
true.
It's such a crazy world. It's wobbly and like tilted, and that screws everything up. So, thank you so much for joining us. We would not do this if you were not out there listening. I don't know. Maybe we would, and then we'd watch our own videos and say, "Oh yeah, that was good."
You'd be like, "That's so cool! Look at us."
We've talked about kindred spirits. We need to do a whole episode on kindred spirits.
Yes.
We need to make that the topic of a whole episode. But you are our kindred spirits. We know that because this far into the episode and you're still listening, you're still saying clever and funny things on the stream, and we just love it. And thank you so much. So as always, and especially right now on January 17th, 2021, we wish you success. We wish you more of your favorite things. And as always, we wish you love.
Mwah.